Chapter 21 Cerulean Cave. G'day everyone, Rune here, and this is Chapter 21 of What If Ash Met Meowth First. If you're new to this series, click the link in the description below to be taken to the playlist. Now let's begin the next chapter. As they're approaching the outskirts of Cerulean, Misty stops the group to suggest that they take a quick detour before heading into town. A little ways outside of Cerulean is a cave where lots of strong Pokemon are said to roam. She suggests that they take some time to go there and look around, as she's been wanting to find another water type that has an easier time finding on land, and it could be a good place to train. Agreeing, the group head over to the cave. Once they're there, something begins to make the hair on the back of Ash's neck stand up. It's way too quiet. Even if the rumor of there being powerful Pokemon here is false, it shouldn't be this quiet. He can tell that he's not the only one that's noticed, as everyone else seems to be on edge too. It's a solid 10 minutes before they see their first sign of life in the cave, which is a small Poliwag. Despite the dim light, the group immediately sees that it's hurt. Misty, being the one in front, immediately scoops up the little Pokemon into her arms, whispering soft words of comfort to it, while Ash digs out a potion from his bag. While he heals the little tadpole Pokemon, it frantically explains with Meowth's help that its colony had been attacked by a pair of humans wearing black uniforms with red R's. Realizing that this must be another Team Rocket mess, the group follow Poliwag deeper into the cave, taking care to keep quiet lest they alert the crooks to their presence. Soon spotting some light around a rock outcrop, the group crouch down out of sight in hopes of finding out exactly what's going on here. They recognize the voices almost instantly as the Team Rocket members from the fake Pokemon breeding center, Butch and Cassidy. Ash immediately goes to his X-Transceiver, only to give a hissed curse. The cave must have some kind of metal in the rock that messes with the electronics, because there's absolutely no signal. Their attention is pulled back to the rocket grunts, as the sound of clanging metal echoes off the cave's walls. Peeking around the rock, they see the blonde and teal-haired problems shoving some of the cave's Pokemon into cages. With the echo of the cave, they're also easily able to hear them talking, with Cassidy complaining about them not being able to find what Giovanni was looking for, and hoping that the Pokemon that they've gathered will be enough of a consolation prize, while Butch is complaining about her getting his name wrong again. Deciding that they've heard enough, the group of three step out from their hiding spot, causing Butch and Cassidy's eyes to widen before they narrow. Turns out, word spreads quickly in Team Rocket, and they know about how the three got the Viridian gym shut down and are the reason that Giovanni is now in hiding. Hoping to avenge the humiliation of their organization, Cassidy sends out Eradicate, while Butch sends out his Primeape. In response, Ash sends out Charizard, while Misty sends out Wartortle, and Brock sends out Onix. The battle is over almost as soon as it begins, but not because one side wins over the other. During the scuffle, Primeape slams Onix into one of the cave walls with a Mach Punch, causing a large crack to form up the cave wall to the ceiling. For a moment, there's complete silence before a rumble echoes through the cavern, and a massive section of the roof breaks off and falls into the river next to them with a massive splash. Panicking, Misty says that they need to get out of here, shouting to be heard over the sound of rock breaking apart. An evil grin comes to Cassidy's face as she says that that's a great idea, before telling Butch to dump the cargo. Before Ash and his friends can react, Cassidy, Butch, and their Pokemon shove the cages still filled with Pokemon into the water. Completely forgetting about the two, Ash runs straight for the water, Misty hot on his heels. As they run, Ash fumbles with his belt while Misty digs in her bag. Once they have a solid grip on what they're looking for, they call out their Pokemon, with Ash calling out Dratini and Magikarp, and Misty calling out Horsey, Starmie, Magikarp, and Lantern. As the aquatic Pokemon appear in the water, the two tweens jump in with a shout for them to follow. Meanwhile, Cassidy and Butch make their escape. Brock calls back his one-out Onix before turning to help Meowth and Pikachu herd the other wild Pokemon into the tunnel that they entered from. At one point, a massive chunk of roof cracks away, falling straight for Meowth, who's helping an injured Golbat. Spotting the danger, Pikachu calls out to him in warning. Meowth looks to the falling boulder, knowing that he won't be able to evade it with Golbat unable to move easily. Closing his eyes, he braces for impact, only for them to fly open as an echoing boom shakes the ground, nearly knocking him off his feet. Eyes flying open, he sees the boulder right next to him in Golbat. That was supposed to hit him. How had another much smaller piece of ceiling crashes down not far behind him, and he quickly refocuses on the task at hand. So focused on their task, they don't notice the dark figure standing in the shadows of another tunnel, hand glowing blue as he keeps one eye on the roof and the other on the water. Meanwhile, underwater, Ash, Misty, and their Pokemon are working to free the Pokemon trapped in the cages. With Lantern lighting up the area and the others helping the non-water types to the surface, they're freeing the trapped Pokemon fairly quickly. However, as more rocks begin to sink through the water and Misty and Ash begin to run out of air, they know that they're running out of time. Thankfully, they manage to whittle the cages down to just one left, with Misty and Ash both still having just enough air left to open it and get back to the surface. However, just as they're about to follow the Poliwag that they've freed, a dark shadow appears over them. Looking up, the two twins spot a large boulder heading straight for them at alarming speed. Acting on pure instinct, they rush forward, shoving the Poliwag out of the way before the boulder comes crashing down on top of them, pinning them to the river floor. Frantic, the Poliwag race for where the twins' Pokemon currently are. The first ones that they pass are the two Magikarp, who have been helping the stragglers. When the group tells them what's happened, they race off as fast as they can while the Poliwag continue to look for the others closer to the surface. Upon seeing their trainers trapped under a large mass of rock and quickly losing air, the two Magikarp begin to swim against the boulder, attempting to move it just enough for their trainers to wriggle out. Deep down, they know it won't work, but they still have to try. They can't just do nothing. These are their trainers, their friends, and, in Ash's case, family. They've been through so much together. They've come so far. They can't just let it end like this. They won't let it end like this. Unnoticed by the fish still pushing the boulder, or the trainers seconds away from passing out, the two Magikarp's bodies burst into light, so bright it draws the attention of those still on the surface. Meowth tells Pikachu to keep Togepi away from the river as he edges towards it as fast as he dares. Just as he's about to lean over to look down, the water rises up in a massive upheaval as two Gyarados emerge from the depths. On their heads, spluttering and gasping for air, are Ash and Misty. Upon finally getting their breath back, they look down at the Leviathan-like Pokemon, instantly recognizing them. Tears of relief and gratitude fill their eyes as they prepare to thank their Gyarados, only to be reminded of the current situation by another falling boulder. Quickly scrambling off their respective Gyarados, they pull out their Pokeballs and recall all of their Pokemon before running towards the rest of their group with the group of Poliwag. As they run, Ash gets the feeling that something is watching them. Turning his head to look behind him, he spots a tall, dark figure at the other end of the cavern that seems to be surrounded in energy. Shocked and concerned, he skids to a stop and turns to fully face the figure, a call for them to run for it on the tip of his tongue. Only, when he looks again, there's nothing there. Misty shouts for Ash to hurry as the rocks are falling much faster now and the roof is on its last legs. Spinning back around, Ash races after her to the safety of the tunnel, only just making it as the cavern completely collapses behind him, blocking the entrance. For a few moments, everyone simply stands there, staring at the wall of rock as they come down from the adrenaline. Once they've somewhat recovered from that situation, they all begin to make their way out of the cave. It's only when they step out into the evening sun that they truly relax. As Misty's taking in the sight of the sky and basking in the fact that they all managed to make it out okay, she feels a tap on her leg. Looking down, she spots the Poliwag that they'd initially found, his old wound now healed to just a faint scar and a swirl pattern. Poliwag looks up at her with big lily-pup eyes and says something which Meowth helpfully translates as a request to go with her. Smiling, Misty holds out an empty Pokeball, allowing Poliwag to tap the button and add himself to her team. As she stands up, she turns to her friends to show off her new Pokemon, only to stop short as she realizes something. Something which, with the danger of the cave-in and the dark of the cave, she'd completely missed. But now, in the light and safety of the outside, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Ash? Where's your cap? Ash's hands fly to his head, clearly having not noticed the disappearance himself. He looks around for a few seconds before his head snaps to Cerulean Cave's entrance and he groans. It must have come off when he dived into the river. With the rush to get all of the Pokemon out and then the run to escape, he hadn't noticed. One hand on his hip, he gives a tired and resigned sigh. There goes nearly 3 weeks worth of my time I'm never getting back. Deep within the cave, Ash's signature red and white cap floats on the surface of a river just in front of a wall of rock. After some time, it becomes enveloped in blue energy and floats out of the water towards a figure shrouded in shadows. The figure lifts their hand, also surrounded in blue energy, and brings the cap up to eye level. They eye the cap for a few moments before turning and walking further into the cave, taking the piece of headwear with them. The next day, after taking the night to rest at the Pokemon Center, the group start to make their way over to the gym, only to come across a poster advertising one of the water ballets that Lily, Violet, and Daisy are so fond of. Seeing the poster, Misty groans in annoyance, commenting about how it's going to delay their plans to put the girls in their place. Meanwhile, Ash eyes the poster carefully before asking Misty if she has a fourth sister she hasn't mentioned. Confused, Misty says no, causing Ash to give his signature evil grin. He points to a line on the poster advertising this as a glorious return of an underwater star. Catching on quickly, Misty is torn between indignant rage and sadistic glee. On the one hand, how dare her sisters just assume that she'll agree to this without even asking her? On the other, a perfect opportunity to mess with them. You know, if they're willing to advertise you without even asking first, they must be pretty desperate. Misty matches Ash's grin with one of her own. And if I'm going to be doing them a favor by performing, it's only fair that they do a few favors for me, right? The two grin evilly as they give each other a thumbs up. Behind them, Brock, Meowth, and Pikachu watch, each with their own sweat drop. You know, I think those two are a bad influence on each other. And that, everyone, is where I'm going to leave the story for now. I was originally going to include the water ballet itself, but I ended up just having too much fun with it, so I'm going to need to give it its own chapter next time. So look forward to that. I'm Rune. See you next chapter.